parents and professionals. Today I'm going to be talking to you about how to motivate a demotivated child. So if you know one of those and you would like the secret to getting them remotivated, then just keep on watching. I've got 5 simple, quick, easy tips for you today to help you get a demotivated child remotivated. Let's launch straight into it, because there is nothing more frustrating than knowing that somebody has potential and sitting back and watching whilst they do not make the most of it. So, number 1 is make sure that whatever it is you want to motivate this young person to do, that as much as humanly possible, you get yourself involved with it too. Children lead by example. In their brains, they have what we refer to as mirror neurons, which means that it's a case of monkey see, monkey do. They learn by watching you. So if you want them to be sitting down and doing their homework, you probably need to be sitting down and doing something which isn't playing on your phone whilst your child is doing their homework. If you want your child to brave it and go up the climbing wall, you've got to be prepared to put on that crash hat and that harness and get yourself up the climbing wall too. So leading by example is always going to be my number 1 tip for getting children super motivated. Another really useful thing that you can do is proactively future focus them. We have a process that we use at NLP for Kids called the Path of Life. And we tend to use this process when we have a young person who is on the wrong path in their life, to get them to see the distinction between how things would look if they were to continue the way that they're going and what would happen if they make a change. It sounds very simple, and in many ways it is, but there's lots of sort of intricate details that we throw into it that really helps them to get some perspective on what life is going to end up looking like if they are not careful. Well, in a similar sort of way, we can use this for helping to motivate a child, not necessarily to draw their attention towards what will happen if they don't crack on and do the thing that they need to do, but when they do it, to get them to notice the implications that that will have further on down the line in really positive ways. So what I mean by this is, let's say that it's taken you half an hour to get a child to sit down and do this piece of maths work that you've really wanted them to get done, but they've spent the entire time chatting to their friends instead. As a result of them having then done it, don't just praise the fact that they actually cracked on and did it. Instead, what you want to be doing is pointing out to them that that one thing that they focused on doing is going to have so many other positive ramifications later on down the line. So for example, the fact that you've sat there and done that now shows me that you can focus really well when you want to. And that focus is going to see you in good stead in other activities that you do, whether that's your schoolwork, whether that's the hobbies that you have. People who have that kind of focus tend to do better in life. They do better in exams because they can really shut out the outside noises and concentrate and just get them seeing far into the future about the effects that this thing that they have just done is going to have on them later on in their lives. Children are very in the moment. They only think about, like, is this affecting me right here, right now? Christmas still seems like millions of miles away to them, even when it's the tail end of November. Whereas for the rest of us, we're like, wah, it's coming. You know, for us, every single year seems to move by more quickly. But with children, they're just like today, and today is long enough. So if we can get them actually thinking about the future and the effects that doing this thing that they're not motivated to do is going to have for them in the long term, then we can start to get them to really notice the consequences of putting in the efforts that they put in right now. Another important thing that we can do is to reward the efforts that they make rather than the outcomes that they achieve. So if you have a child who is working really hard on something, but they're not the best at it, we still want to be acknowledging and rewarding the fact that they're putting in the effort anyway, and not just putting the focus on achieving good grades or being the best at it. Because children who will put in the effort anyway, even when they know that they're not the best at it, stand a much better chance of sticking with things even when they find them super difficult. And that's going to work wonders for them in the long run in terms of being able to overcome all sorts of different challenges in life and not just giving up when the going gets tough because they're not seeing the results that they're used to getting. If you want a child to be motivated, they need to be the kind of motivated that has them crack on and do things, even if it's stuff that they're not actually all that good at. So they're not in it for the outcome, they're just in it to show how hard they're able to work. If you want to cultivate that kind of attitude in your child, then you need to be rewarding the efforts that they make and not the outcomes that they achieve. And the final two things that I have for you in terms of helping to motivate a child actually are about releasing you from the responsibility of making that happen. The first thing is for you to delegate responsibility to other people for motivating your child, particularly if you are a parent. Children are not always all that great at taking on board the great ideas that a parent will give them. Very often at the NLP for Kids office, we have parents who phone up and say, my child has this problem, I've told them this, I've suggested this, and I'm sitting there going, these are all really good ideas, I would definitely be recommending this stuff as well. But because a parent is a parent, typically a child is going to be reluctant to listen to them because it's like you're supposed to say the right thing and you're supposed to be nice because you are mum or you are dad. Whereas when it's somebody else, they kind of tune in and pay attention in a very different way. It's as if they can offer a level of respect and trust to an outsider that's different to what they can offer to their parent. With a parent, it's like, well, it's as standard, you're supposed to say the right thing and suggest for me to do these things. But with an outsider, they're more likely to tune in and focus in a different way. Maybe it's a respect thing, maybe it's a novelty thing, but either way, it's definitely something you can make use of. So if you are not someone who is good at motivating your child to do their homework, then maybe get somebody else to do that. Maybe that's a tutor, maybe it's another parent, maybe you swap children when it comes to getting them to do stuff that they typically don't like to do. Sometimes children will behave better for grandparents, sometimes they will behave better for teachers. So getting them to engage with those people can be a really good way to just give them a little jolt and motivate them in the right direction. And the fifth thing you can do to get a child to be more motivated is to give them responsibilities. Instead of you taking on the challenge of motivating them in the right direction whenever they could possibly need it, well, what happens if you make them responsible for their outcomes? What happens if you get them to take charge of their own destiny in some small and reasonable way? Perhaps what we might start to see then is that these children suddenly feel more empowered. They suddenly feel more as if they're important, they belong, they have purpose here. So they can start to take more responsibility for their outcomes and therefore feel more motivated to do that. Sometimes the solution isn't in doing more, but instead it's in stepping back and doing a little less. So those are 5 different ways that you can begin to motivate a child that you work with or one that you care about. And if any of those suggestions work super well for you, or you have any others, then make sure that you leave those in the comments box down below. I will see you all again very soon. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.